Let's talk about books of shadows. Hey there, Pagan Perspective. My name is Danny, and welcome to Monday on Subs Week. Again, the question is choose your own adventure, which means I get to answer any of the questions that the regular hosts answered, in the most recent time period or so. Obviously, our community adores watching tours and talk-throughs of books of shadows and grimoires and journaling, so I thought I would share a little bit on this channel about my own book of shadows. This is my Book of Awen. Now, it serves roughly the same purpose as a book of shadows. I call it a book of Awen because it serves as my inspiration and guide to ritual, magic, and just any sort of druid practice that I incorporate on a regular basis. I went to a lot of trouble a few years ago making my own book. I did a hand binding and I used this yellow leather and I loved it. It was so magical and perfect, and I spent a lot of time working on it. But because I do a bunch of my ritual and practices outside, it would get thrown into my crane bag and taken out with me. I didn't have a book stand when I first started using it. It had a short but very intense life. Eventually, I came back from ritual one day and the binding had just completely fallen apart and I could no longer repair it. So the last time when I got my ovate Gwersi from the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids rebound into a hardback book like I did for the Bard course, I decided to go ahead and get a professional binding for my Book of Awen. Now, I had to redo most of the pages and I am not even close to getting that process done. The paper isn't quite the same. I have fewer selections than when I did it myself. But there are the seasonal celebrations that OBOD gives you during the OBOD course bound into this book. And there's also some paper with yellow pressed flowers in it, and then regular paper that is a little bit thicker, but really good and holds ink on both sides very well. The magical part of my Book of Awen, though, is this seal. This was on my original Book of Awen when I did it myself. And on the underside of this is where I have the book blessing and kind of what ignited the magical life that my book has and its relationship with me. So I took a part of that old book and really transferred it over to this new book. I have very specific pens and colored pencils that I use for my book. Any of the writing or drawing that I do in it kind of fits the same theme. So I use the same font throughout the entire book. The margins are roughly the same, and the aesthetic is very consistent throughout the book. Part of that just makes it easier for me to input all of the information and practices and ideas into the book in a timely manner. And part of that is because I just really love how put together and cohesive it looks when I do it that way. Also have put pressed flowers and leaves into the book and used acid-free and bookbinding glue on top of it to kind of put a seal over the plant material. This has had mixed results. Some of these things turn out really well and some of them not so well. So we'll see how things age in my book as I continue to go outside and do other things with my Book of Awen. Now, this book does not include reflections on specific meditations or daily practices. I have a traveler's notebook style journal that includes my planner and my journal and my work notebook, and that's in the size A5 right now, which is working a little bit better than the traditional Midori traveler's notebook size. I go through journals pretty quickly, and I've been keeping a journal since I could write. So about 5 years old. I have probably 38 to 42 journals, depending on how you count the incomplete volumes that I have. It's much easier for me to be able to just write and feel motivated and inspired by whatever notebook I have at the time. And when I complete it, to just put it with the rest and start over fresh. My Book of Awen would be completely full by now if I'd been keeping it as a journal. And I really want more space for things that I use on a regular basis in ritual magic practices or on a regular basis. It's also something that I could potentially share with others down the road if I was so inclined, but right now it mostly stays just with myself. Now let's talk a little bit about Druidry and Books of Shadows and Grimoires. This is not a practice that is required, or I would say even like super consistent in the Druid community. It's encouraged by many orders for Druids to write down your thoughts and record their experiences. That's very important. But having a like specific crafty Book of Shadows grimoire type item is less commonplace. I do see others who have kind of inspiration books or like ritual books. Even a couple people who have called their books the same as I have, a Book of Awen. It's a really great way to connect to the creative energy of Awen, to find elements of the natural world and put that in the book. And it's a great way of kind of solidifying some of the thoughts and practices you might have in your Druid practice into one solid place. So it holds a lot of value for Druids, but by no means is it like a consistent or regular practice in the Druid community. In this video, I've used Grimoire and Book of Shadows pretty interchangeably. Lots of other people have talked about the difference, and if you want to, talk about them in different ways, that's great. For me and my practice, they're not really different. Spells and like reference materials are in the same book for me, and they're kind of intermixed. It's not something I need to keep separate. I hope you've enjoyed this little glimpse into my Book of Awen and a little bit more of my practice. If you want to hear more, definitely head over to my channel and check out the videos I've done for my hand-bound version and an update after a year. Thanks for watching, and as always, may you find peace in the sacred grove.